What is up, good friends? It's Amanda. Can you believe that it has been 10 years since this one, right here, walked across the stage at high school graduation? I knew then I wanted to be a writer. I've written a whole lot since I graduated high school. Obviously, it was 10 years ago. And oftentimes in BookTube, we talk about tropes. 10 years ago, probably one of the most overdone, obnoxious tropes was just flying high. If you wrote one of these, you were in. What you are witnessing, dear friends, is the end of the world. That's right, it was the dystopian trope. So I'm going to read 7 books. I'm calling this Dystopian Week. I'm only going to read the first Hunger Games book. We've got the 100, Scythe, Maze Runner, Hunger Games, Selection, The Program, and then Anthem. Anthem's the only one that wasn't published around that time I graduated. It's going to be a huge trip down memory lane. A few of these do fit my 52 book challenge prompts, which is right here, 52 book challenge. I'll do another video where I go through all of it, but you can kind of see a little bit. 1 week, 7 books, and the end of the world. Let's do it. Dystopian Week, Day 1. About 60% of the way through the Maze Runner. I probably would have finished it today. It's about 11 p.m. if my air conditioner hadn't decided to break. So it's about 85 degrees in this room. It's about 98 degrees outside during the day. The way I explain Dallas to people is we have the heat of Las Vegas with the humidity of Orlando. So it's very hot. And I actually feel sick from the heat. And I had to deal with AC guys, so I didn't get as much reading done as I should. But this is really fun. This is fun. So here's the basic premise. Out there's the maze. Everything we do, our whole life, revolves around the maze. Every 11 second, every 11 day we spend in honor of the maze, trying to solve something that's not shown. It has a bloody solution, you know. This really reminds me of Lord of the Flies, and I think Lord of the Flies was a huge influence for this book. It's like Lord of the Flies, but good. And there's also a girl in it. So hopefully I'll have it finished tomorrow. I mean, I'm sure I will. But I'm really liking it. And it's just too bad I didn't read this. This was published in 2009. I graduated in 2011. It's just too bad I didn't discover this one until the movie came out, because I would have really liked it. I really like it now, even though it's hot. So I'm gonna go cool down. So I have finished the 100, if I'm being honest, which you know I always am. This is more so what I was expecting when I came into Dystopian Week. Was this bad? Kind of. I mean, it dealt with some important issues like classism and teen pregnancy and prescription drug abuse, which I was really happy to see because that never gets enough attention in YA. But there wasn't much of a story, and now I know this is a series, and I know it's a TV show on the CW, and as soon as I saw that, I did not have high expectations. But it is what it is. It's a novel written for 14-year-olds about a bunch of juvenile delinquents being dropped onto an uninhabitable planet. What we get is a setting up for another book. It ends on a total cliffhanger. Like, unlike the Maze Runner, which actually wrapped up loose ends, this one doesn't at all. It's just all set up and all backstory. And there are even flashbacks. Like, you can see here the font that, like, the regular story is written in. And then there's these really consistent, like, flashbacks that are written in a different font. So that is not something you see in books a whole lot. And I found something interesting. Now, if you go to the acknowledgement section of pretty much any book, what you'll see is that the author will thank or acknowledge their literary agent. But I was looking at the back cover because I think this is Clark, and full disclosure, I liked Clark. She was the one character that I actually liked. I noticed this. Let's see. Yeah, it's not focusing. Anyway, that says Alloy Entertainment. So this author is not repped by a literary agent. She is repped by an entertainment or a talent agency. It sounds similar, but they're different. So literary agents only represent authors. They only take full manuscripts or book proposals, and they only sell them to publishing companies. Some of them take screenplays, but not usually. Talent agencies will represent screenwriters, actors, pretty much anybody, any kind of talent, models, P-word stars. I mean, they just represent talent. And so this author also has degrees from Brown and Oxford and lives in Brooklyn. I don't know when the CW series came out, and kind of funny story, during the really bad parts of the pandemic for the virus that we don't speak of, my parents were actually watching the show, I think on Netflix. I don't know if it's still on Netflix. Will I watch this show? Probably the pilot. Will I read the second book? Probably not. But I wonder if this was written in 2013. I wonder if this was written like alongside the show, like they wrote the novel immediately knowing it was going to be a show on the CW. I don't know. I just thought it was a little bit strange that the author was not repped by a literary agent. She was repped by a talent agency. So, yeah, it's just alright. I think I'm gonna give it 2.5 stars because it wasn't good, but it's kind of just like another YA dystopian story. Like, I didn't really expect it to be good. Like, I don't know. And it was pretty dark. There was like infanticide or suicide and a bunch of just really dark stuff. Is this going on my classroom wish list? No. Would I want to see a 14-year-old student reading this? Not really. But it did what it meant to do, which was just be filler, I guess, for the YA dystopian genre, is what it is. So, yeah, 2.5 stars, because it wasn't really bad, it just wasn't good at all. So, I mean, it wasn't like 3 stars is going towards I like it, and 2 stars is I didn't like it, and it's not that I didn't not like this book. Like, I mean, I didn't really like it, but I wasn't supposed to like it. Like, this was not written for me. I'm not 14 anymore, sadly. So, 2.5 stars. It wasn't really that poorly written. Some of the dialogue was stupid. It was really melodramatic, but I think it was, like, trying to be that way. So, 2.5 stars for this. I'm all caught up on my reading goal, which is awesome, my Goodreads reading goal. And I think the next one I'm going to read is going to be The Selection, even though not really looking forward to that one, but whatever. Because it's on my tablet and the AC is still out, so I'm sleeping in another room, and I'm sleeping on my brother's floor, so I don't want to like wake him up. He's a kid, he goes to bed early, so it's on my iPad. So that's the next one I'm going to read. The 100 was what it was. Don't know what else to say. Greetings, friends. So I was just reading The Selection. I got 11% through of it on my iPad. So I went online because I was getting the feeling that it might have been self-published. It wasn't. It was actually published by Harper Teen. But I, 1, had the ending spoiled for me, and 2, saw that there was some controversy around Elena Roth, who is the author's agent. Now, there was a 1-star review on Goodreads, and I guess this Elena person, she contacted, said some terrible stuff on Twitter in a conversation that she thought was private. Turns out it was public, and it turned into a whole huge mess, and this agent sounds like a terrible person, so I'm not going to support that. I'm going to return it on Kindle Unlimited, and we're going to move on to Scythe. Halfway through Scythe, ooh, Apologies, there we go, that's better. Halfway through Scythe. I really like this one. I find it a good commentary on death and, that looks better, death and physical pain and just all the horrendous things that we deal with in our everyday life. And in this society, these people don't have to deal with it because there's no hunger, they've conquered death, and to keep population under control, they hire Scythes, who are charged with killing people, but they call it gleaning. And we're following two teenagers. Both are apprentices to become Scythes. Now, unfortunately, Dystopian Week has kind of turned into Dystopian 10 days. My AC going out really threw more of a monkey wrench into things than I had initially predicted, but we are going to get through this. I'm really liking this, and it's great. It's a good intro to Neil Schusterman because he's written a lot of other stuff I want to write, like Challenger Deep, I think has a mentally ill character in it, and as a bipolar person, I'm just really interested to see how it's portrayed. Sometimes it's amazing, like, I'm not going to call Silver Linings Playbook amazing, but it was pretty good. And other times, it's infuriating. So, Neil Schusterman, you are my new favorite YA author. All done with Scythe, gave it 4.5 stars. I really liked the way it went over mass cleanings, or like what we would call mass shootings, or like a bombing, and just the loss of humanity we experience with those just random acts of violence. Really good, well written, a little bit hard to get through because the vocabulary was a little cumbersome at some points, read kind of slow. Doesn't help that my AC is still out, but I'm moving on to the program. Let's see that. It's about teen suicide becoming an epidemic. Newsflash, it's already an epidemic. And I have a feeling this book is going to be very problematic, and it might infuriate me. So, let's go. Okay, Dystopian Week is coming to an end, which means it's time for the most popular dystopian novel. Probably, yeah, I would say this is the most popular dystopian YA novel. The other two, I think, are Divergent, which I've already read and I wanted to keep it to one reread, and The Giver, which I've already read. But The Giver has more academic quality than The Hunger Games. This is more just commercial fiction. 10 years ago I first read this. 10 years ago I graduated high school. Let's see if it holds up. I'm just gonna get you guys my current setup here. You can see all the fans I got going. And it's messy because it's just too damn hot. No blanket on the bed. 1 fan, 2 fan, 3 fan. Put the guinea pigs somewhere else because it's too hot for them in there. I think the world's ending, guys. Hey guys, I'm all done with the Hunger Games. So, Dystopian Week is over. It was really more like a week and a half, but that's what happens when you live in Texas and your air conditioner goes out. Everything else goes out with it. So the question is, did this hold up? I read it 10 years ago, my senior year of high school, kind of right before the movie came out. And yeah, it held up. One thing I will say is I've always said that The Hunger Games has been a story that works better on film, and I do still believe that's the case. Main reason is because the film eliminates Katniss's voice, and she can be kind of annoying because she kind of takes a long time to sort of get to the point of what she's like starting to tell us, and she's like constantly calling people idiots and stuff like that. I mean, she's a child, so I get it, and they're like trying to kill her. But I think everything for the movie, the directing, the performances, the choreography, the fight choreography just came together to just elevate the story into something so great. So I'm done. All these books. Dystopia was a huge trope 10 years ago when I graduated high school, and I think this has actually been pretty cathartic for me 10 years ago, in these past 10 years, some pretty terrible stuff has happened. The main one being that I hurt my back and now I live with chronic pain. And looking back, I had just gotten my high school degree. Now I have a master's degree, a career. I'm killing it in the screenwriting world. I actually just found out I became a finalist in the Golden Script competition today. So I'm very proud to go from that little girl in high school to the young woman I am. So keep reading, keep writing, keep loving words, and I will see you next time.